Welcome to the Navigating Magic podcast, where we explore the interplay between intuition, ethereal consciousness, and everything in between. I teach beings how to generate change through their attention to energies, truths, and processes that are invisible to others. Hello, thank you so much for being here for my next episode. I really hope that you've been enjoying this podcast. I've been creating it with so much love and intention behind the scenes, so it means the world to me that you're here and tuning in. I would really appreciate it if you shared, liked, responded, commented, shared this with others, and even let me know what you thought of it. It just lights me up. So thank you so much. Now, this episode comes with a heavy heart because last Tuesday, we suddenly and tragically lost our beautiful boy, Peanut. Now, Peanut's story goes back all the way to 2018. Nick and I had 3 bunnies at the time, and our favorite rescue, named the Bunny Sanctuary, had put out a post of an influx of bunnies that needed rescuing. And so we thought, we have 3, we love them, we manage them really well. Why not add one more and make a difference in that bunny's life? And so we went onto the Rabbit Sanctuary website and found the cutest bunnies. And so it was so hard to pick. And so we found a picture of a bunny that we really resonated with, and his name was George. So we clicked on George and we inquired to rescue George and adopt him. And I remember vividly saying to Nick, if we adopt George, or when we adopt George, I want to change his name to Georgie. And he said, sure, that's like Georgie is such a cute bunny name. And the Rabbit Sanctuary got back to us later that day and they said, unfortunately, George has been claimed. So why don't you pick another rabbit? And so we went back to the drawing board and there he was, Peanut. And so Nick actually had a bunny before he met me named Peanut. And he looked very similar, almost like identical twins. And we inquired about Peanut, excited to add him to our crew. And all of a sudden, the Bunny Sanctuary got back to us and they said, yes, Peanut is available. However, he is a husband to a female rabbit named Georgie. And so we could not believe the synchronicity of Peanut coming with another bunny named Georgie. And so we knew instantly that adding 2 bunnies to our clan was the way to go. And so we adopted Georgie and Peanut, and they were the cutest bonded pair you will ever see. They used to flop side by side facing opposite directions, and the way they would always pose for the camera just melted our hearts. And so that was in September of 2018, and Peanut would have been less than a year old. He was 11 months old when he came into our lives. And he's changed our lives. He's one of those bunnies he's very assertive. He knows what he wants, and he's very much a boss bunny, but in his own unique way. He would demand head rubs. If we ever knelt down into his little area, he would nudge us with his head, indicating, you need to rub my head. And if we stopped rubbing his head, he would nudge us even more, sometimes even nip us, almost indicating, hey, I'm not done here. You need to keep going. So let's fast forward to this year. You may already be aware that we lost Romeo in March, and Romeo was a constantly, I should say, sick bunny. Every now and again, he would unfortunately get unwell, and so we just got used to him being unwell. However, Peanut was a very, very healthy bunny. He never had any issues. His vet checks were always up to date, and he was in perfect health. And he actually turns 7 next week. Now, this is why I think his sudden passing and his death has really come as a shock to us. But as an animal communicator, I really, really need to zoom out and see this from a higher perspective, because every animal chooses how they pass, they choose when they pass, and they also choose who is there with them. And this may be hard to hear because no passing, no death is ever easy. And I remember saying to Nick, like, Nick keeps asking, why now? Why now? Why now? It's so unfair. And I turned to him and I said, well, when is it ever a good time? There's no such thing, because each animal has this predestined contract with you, and this is all predetermined. And whether you believe this or not, to be honest with me, it's not my business. This is something to sit with you, but you need to come to the understanding that animals operate at a completely different consciousness. The way that they perceive, the way that they resonate with us, the way that they emit and provide this unconditional love, us humans, we have a long way to go in terms of learning those lessons. And so waking up last Monday morning to Peanut being unwell was very, I was going to say, out of the blue. And the more we tried all the remedies with him at home remedies, we tried to rub his belly, we tried to give him a syringe, feed him some critical care, some food. I laid with him on the couch for about an hour in the morning, which was like my last time that I would ever lay with him. Little did I know. And nothing was working. And so we made the call to take him to the vet. And we took him to our exotic vet in Sydney, which is Birds and Exotic Vets, which we love, we adore, and we've built a relationship over the years with. And as soon as we took him to the vet, now bunnies, as you may be aware, are very vulnerable. And so we need to, if they're ever unwell, you need to take action straight away. So as soon as we brought him in, it was suspected gut stasis, which is where gas can build up in the bunny's tummy. And when they tried to treat this medically, it wasn't working. And so with the x-rays, it was basically confirmed that there's a possible obstruction. Now, bunnies are very similar to cats, where they groom themselves constantly. They'll constantly groom each other, which is very cute. And when they groom themselves, they obviously ingest fur. Now, unlike cats, they cannot vomit their fur balls. Cats do, but bunnies can't. It's impossible for a bunny to vomit. So they can ingest the fur, and if it gets stuck in their tummy, it creates a clump and then essentially builds up an obstruction. And an obstruction can be life-threatening. It's endangering the life of the bunny, and you need to take action immediately. And so I'm going to, I guess, zoom out from this instance. So receiving that news on Monday came as a shock to us as to how he could have an obstruction, because Nick and I are very vigilant with our bunnies. We groom them often, we brush them often in order to minimize this. Sometimes we wet our hands and just run it over them in order to pick up as much fur as possible. If you've ever worked with me or hang out with me in the day or even at night, you'll find fur all over our clothes. I know my mum is my biggest fan and my biggest ridicule, where she'll pick out all the fur off my clothes and comment about it. But too bad, when you have bunnies and pets that you love, if you've got furry dogs, then I'm sure you're the same. You wear it with pride. And so when we got the news on Monday that Peanut had an obstruction, our vet said that they're going to recommend surgery, because the medical treatment of, I guess, trying to degas him wasn't working, and he wasn't responding to that. And like I said before, you need to take immediate action. And so the vet called us to confirm, get consent that it was okay. And although we were scared, we knew that this was in Peanut's best interest to go through with the surgery. And so it came very fast and as a shock, as I constantly keep saying, because I think we still are in that state of shock. And so what happened, I asked the vet, how long will the surgery take? She said, look, by the time we put him under with the anesthetic and get him into surgery, it'll probably be about 45 minutes to an hour. And so, okay, In that time, I said to Nick, we need to do some energy work in order to help the situation and to help Peanut, but also help us as much as we can. And so within 10 minutes, we receive a call from the vet. And knowing that this was going to take an hour, to receive a call within 10 minutes, it was a scary thing. And so picked up the phone and our vet said, "Hi, Peanut's okay, but I just want to let you know that as we were preparing him for the anesthetic, his heart stopped and we had to resuscitate him." And she said, "He's okay, but because of the way he's responded and reacted to the anesthetic, we have decided not to do surgery today." And I think that information just came over us. And now, and thankfully, he didn't go through the surgery because he probably wouldn't have survived it. But we need to, again, be objective and think about how our animals choose how, when, and who is there with them in terms of their passing. And so on that day, as you know, I'm an astrologer, and I'm constantly, daily, sometimes hourly, looking at the astrology not in terms of a need to know basis, but in terms of a help me understand the energies, the frequencies that's happening down here. You may be familiar with the Hermetic law, as above, so below. And so this is one way that we can, I guess, empower ourselves with information and knowledge and bring awareness to what is happening in our lives. Now, on that Monday, the moon was in Leo. And I've started to study medical astrology. And you don't even need to study medical astrology. One of the basic principles of understanding the astrological sign of Leo is that Leo rules the heart. And up until the, I think, 16th century in our world, doctors actually needed to know astrology in order to practice medicine, because there are certain times, certain periods of time and certain days where you simply can and cannot perform surgery and do other medical treatments. And in the 16th century, this actually got abolished, along with a few other things which are now considered esoteric. And so for me to be objective in this situation, if I was a surgeon, I would not be performing heart surgery when the moon is in Leo. And there are instances where this has caused severe illness and even death in humans. And so knowing this about our bunny, that the fact that he had a gut obstruction, and then for the heart to be affected on the Monday, this was for me really, really concerning. And I guess when I look at this, again, objectively, I'm reflecting on the fact that the signs were there. And the vet then suggested that they continue the medical treatment to stabilize him. And we come at 5 o'clock to reassess the situation. And so we went to the vet at 5 p.m. and our vet doesn't actually have overnight care, overnight facilities for pets. So they suggested that we take him to the 24-hour emergency hospital down the road. It was a 4-minute drive. And Peanut had a cannula in his ear. He was on opioids and other heavy medication in order to help the pain and to stabilize him. But seeing him on Monday afternoon, that wasn't our boy. That wasn't our cheerful, motivated, and confident, precious bunny. He just seemed like he was in a completely different state. And knowing what I know about animal communication, I guess the soul starts to detach from the body leading up to the passing. And we ummed and ahed, and there's never a right, it's a catch-22 situation. The vet did emphasize, how serious his condition was and that he may not make it, and that she suggested that we take him to the overnight vet. We asked if we could take him home, that if we could care for him overnight until tomorrow morning. And she just basically said that if we take him home, he won't have access to the cannula and the medication could wear out in 6 hours, leaving him for another, I guess, 6 to 10 hours without medication. And at that point, it was, do we take him home for our own benefit and gain, or do we provide him with what he needs? And so we decided, very hard decision, to take him to the 24-hour vet. Now, when we got to the emergency hospital vet, I guess they're dealing with a whole other array of situations, and they're there, and we're grateful for their care and knowledge, but at the same time, they deal with a lot of, I'm going to say it, they deal with a lot of death at the 24-hour hospital. And I read a lot of their reviews online, and it was basically, they just push euthanizing the pet when they know that they're really unwell. And for me, I know the importance of using my words, using my thoughts, and how my focus creates my reality. So we were still fairly optimistic that we could get through this. But again, looking back and reflecting on this, I think the signs were more so evident. We arrived at the vet hospital at 6:25 p.m. At 6:25 p.m., the moon was now void. I will share another episode teaching you about the void moon, but it's really important to note that when the moon is void, it's basically changing from one astrological sign into another. And so on Monday night, the moon was void because the moon was leaving Leo and entering Virgo. Now, Virgo, the astrological sign, actually rules the digestive system and the gut. And so for me, my understanding, my application, and my knowledge of the moon void tells me, and most importantly, through my life experience, that the moon, when it is void, nothing will come of it. So if you begin and initiate a new program, a new contract, a new project during a moon void, nothing will come of it. So I, in that moment, had this assurance wash over me that overnight, Peanut being at the 24-hour vet, nothing will come of it. And when the vet checked Peanut, this is at the 24-hour hospital vet, and she called us into the consultation room, she seemed very pessimistic. And while I respect vets and their knowledge and their care, obviously you become a vet because you have so much care and love for animals. At the same time, I didn't appreciate her words. And I'm a big believer in really shutting out the external noise that happens around you, because people are always going to reflect their limitations and they're going to project their perception onto you. And this is why it's so important who you listen to, who you hang out with, the people that you respond to, and the people that you really keep in your intimate circle, because you are literally what's the word? You're a reflection of the top 5 people. You're an average of the top 5 people that you hang around with. And so as the vet started talking, she dared to mention, and she just said it so casually, like that. I don't know if she was just detached from the situation, but she just mentioned, without even, I guess, giving Peanut a chance, she said, I could always euthanize him now while you're here, as if, this is what we do here. This is normal practice for us. And it was in that moment that I held myself together. I put my hand up to her and I said, I reject your claim and I reject your words. Now, it's really important, and I think I have a lot to teach about this, where you actually have the power to reject someone's projection and imposition onto you, because people, like I said before, are always going to come from where they are at in their level of evolution and their consciousness. And she looked at me and she was startled, and I didn't raise my voice, but my tone was very firm with her. And I said to her clearly, if you are going to walk into this in treating my boy Peanut with the end result that you are going to euthanize him. I don't want him here, and I will take him home. And I was so firm with her. And I said, I need you to approach this knowing that we are going to pick him up alive tomorrow morning. And she looked at me and she was shocked. And it took a lot in that moment because of my vulnerability, my stress, and my heartache to say this without getting aggressive. Because when your pet's life is on the line, and when you love your pets the way that we do, you will do whatever it takes in order to give them everything that they need. And then her tone changed. She realized who we were. She realized that I wasn't going to accept her walking into this and even dare to say the E word. And then she said, oh, of course, I always energetically approach this with healing. And she was just talking shit, essentially. And I think that looking back, I've never felt more empowered in dealing with a vet before. And at the same time, I know that helped Peanut in that moment. And so we had to leave him overnight. And by that point, we were just absolutely exhausted, drained, and just at our wits' end. And so we asked her, are you going to call us throughout the night? And she said, basically, if you don't hear from us, no news is good news, because the vet actually only ever calls you when it's time. And so I held that intention and that vision that we were going to pick up Peanut alive and well tomorrow morning. And if you listen to my episode when Romeo passed away and dealing with pet grief, you might recall when I said how I set the intention that we will hold Romeo's vet appointment at Friday at 3 p.m. except he had passed and we ended up needing that vet appointment for our bunny Luna. And so that taught me the power of intention and how using our words really helps us in our daily life. And so in that moment, I set the intention and I asked Nick to do the same, that we would be picking up Peanut tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and we would take him to our vet. And we held through the night. And I remember that night, I don't know what time I fell asleep because it was so hard to switch this off. It was so hard to mentally shut off, but I did so much energy work as I was drifting off to sleep. And then at one point during the night, I woke up, and I have this habit of waking up a minute before my alarm goes off because I set the intention to do so before bed and it works every time. So this might be something you would like to try yourself. However, I woke up I woke up in the middle of the night and I remember saying to myself, my phone is not going to ring. I'm going to sit here in the silence. And I was so afraid of that phone call happening. And I guess this last year, I've learned a lot about alchemy and applying principles in our life. And so it was really important for me to, number one, face my fear, and then obviously transmute that into what I do want and focus on my end result, which was picking up Peanut in the morning. Now, this in itself is a big lesson for me because you're constantly creating your life, constantly. And this may be hard to hear for some people because when you have challenges and blocks appear in your life, you don't want to hear that you created that. It's the last thing you would tell someone. But again, you need to separate yourself from the intricacies of life and really see the bigger picture. And so when I woke up in the middle of the night, I did a lot of energy work on Peanut. I did everything in my power. I used my visualization. I used my breath. I used the divine light. I used golden rays in order to help him. And I know I'm so confident that it worked because I started to feel it within my own body, even though I was sending it to him. And I started to feel it from my feet up in towards my heart because I was connecting to the earth. in order to help ground him and keep him safe and well. And so I think I fell asleep doing energy work. And then I woke up at about 7 a.m. Our neighbors are constantly building their home. And so the tradies rock up every morning at 7 a.m. making noise as they do. And it was such a relief to wake up knowing that both of us, Nick and I, didn't receive any missed calls on our phone. And so I rang the vet straight away just to do a check-in. And they said Peanut is stable and that he had a little bit of food overnight. He nibbled. Nick actually went back to the vet to drop off his favorite food, chicory, mint, and some fennel leaves. And it was just nice to know that he had nibbled on that. So Nick's efforts, Nick's such a caring bunny dad. And so I'm going to try not to cry in this. Did set the intention. And so I knew that the moon was void until about 7:30 in the morning. And so we left home as soon as we could to go and pick him up. And it was such a relief to get there and say, hi, could we please pick up our baby Peanut? And they said, yes, let us just get him ready. And the funny thing was that the day before when we went to pick him up at Monday at 5 p.m., we actually forgot our pet carrier in the other car. And so we had to borrow our vet's pet carrier. And so when they brought him out in the vet's pet carrier, I understood why we forgot the pet carrier. And again, Spirit is always giving us signs and symbols and synchronicities, but sometimes we're so distracted we don't see it. But that morning at 7:25 a.m., the moon was no longer void and the moon had entered Virgo. Now, the moon entering Virgo from medical astrology affects the gut. A lot of Virgos do have digestive issues. So this is something that you might want to, if you know a Virgo, you might want to look at. But I knew at that moment that because he had a blockage in the gut, that this needed to be addressed immediately. And so we picked up Peanut, and as soon as we got him into the car, I opened the gate of the carrier and his head was facing up. And it was literally a 4-minute drive from the hospital vet to our vet. But in peak hour traffic, if you live in Sydney, you would know exactly what I'm speaking about. It took longer than 4 minutes. It probably quadrupled the time. And Peanut started squirming, and I just thought he was getting comfortable. And as soon as we parked the car, we raced him down to the vet. I was keeping strong. I was keeping my end result. I was visualizing. But as soon as we brought him into the vet and I looked at the receptionist, it's like I knew. I just burst into tears. I said, you need to take him immediately. So minutes later, it felt like an eternity, but I know it was probably a minute later, our vet looks at us from the hallway. She points at us and she doesn't say anything. She just gestures her hand to say, come through. And we walked into the consult room and she was actually in tears herself. And she said he didn't make it. And we were both in so much shock. I said, what do you mean? He was just in the car with us. And she said, I'm so sorry. He waited for you. He really did. And the fact that Peanut waited for us overnight, he waited to get into the car with us. The fact that he passed in the vet carrier and not in our own carrier was deeply, deeply resonant with the bigger picture. It was such a shock. We would have done whatever it took in order to help our Peanut. But that's the thing with owning bunnies. It takes a special kind of heart, a special kind of love, and a huge commitment, financial and emotional, in order to take care of them. And so I look back on my intention. I intended on arriving at our vet the next morning, but I didn't extend that intention. And so this is where the soul lessons and the soul contracts between us and our animals play a really, really big role in our life. And it's so important that we actually start utilizing our words, our thoughts, our images in our mind to manipulate the world around us. Otherwise, your subconscious mind plays this role in actually projecting out your worst fears. And so losing Peanut this past week has been really tough on us. This is now our 4th bunny in the Rainbow Bridge. And when Peanut got sick on Monday, we actually booked in a Christmas Santa photo, holding the intention that he would be there with us. And so it's been really tough, I guess, transitioning our home life without him. We're constantly looking for him. It's like you feel that there's something missing. And so when a pet passes, you obviously, your heart is yearning for something that is no longer within reach, no longer there. And it's the hardest thing, I think, to grasp and to get your head around. And so with Peanut's passing, we have had, I can't tell you how many signs we have had from him this past week alone. If you've been on my Instagram, you might have seen the photo. Our RoboVac the other day literally created a mop. The mop, it was mopping the floor, a shape in a bunny's head, literally in the shape of a bunny's head. I cannot make this up. If you've seen the photo, let me know what you think on Instagram. I just cannot believe what we saw. When Nick saw it, took a photo, it was like, I cannot believe this. And this is the thing, not just your bunnies and your animals in spirit, they are constantly sending you signs and symbols, and they love to use technology in order to do so. So the way that Peanut has been communicating with us has been just uncanny. I've had a feather land on the front door. I had butterflies on the front door. I've seen a lot of angel numbers. And the crazy thing was, when we got back in the car after he passed, the odometer on my car was something like 46,000 kilometers, 999. And in numerology, you may be aware, the number 9 does mean endings. So it was really symbolic and representative of that he was still around. And we drove around the corner from our vet, and there was this place, a coffee bar called the Peanut Butter Bar. And we've been to our vet many, many times, and we have never noticed it, never seen it. It's probably been there the whole time, but it was like our awareness was all of a sudden noticing it. And there's been other instances of, Peanut responding to us, sending us messages. Our RoboVac will say, if we're talking about him, our RoboVac will literally say the words, "I'm here." And that's us acknowledging. And we do acknowledge, thank you for giving us signs. Earlier today, I'm just going to reach out and grab it. My bunny Neptune was in my office with me, working, sitting under my desk, and I found him. He was chewing on something, and this feather, I don't know how it got in my office. I have genuinely no idea. He was chewing on this and feathers are often symbolic and signs and messages from spirit, from your pets that have crossed over, your guardian angels, even your family and loved ones. So this for me was a really big telltale sign that Peanut is still with us. And although it hurts, at the same time, it's so comforting and so reassuring. I have also had some dreams about him. The other day, I think it was on Saturday, I fell asleep on the couch, and Peanut actually has delivered to me, like he literally hand delivered this project to me, and he gave me the name and he gave me the details of this project. And I've never woken up from a dream. I often have dreams that have symbolic gestures and resonance, and some of them are even prophetic. because it's a form of divination. However, I've never had such a dream where it was so clear and so distinct. And so yesterday morning, Nick and I had our very own animal communication session with Anna Marie. She's been on this podcast. You may be familiar with her. And I asked about my dream and Peanut. And the first thing that Peanut said was, "This is the Peanut Project," which just made me laugh and smile. And she said to me that it is not something that I must action now. It is something that I must actually experience myself. And it's through my own personal experience that I'm actually going to be able to help so many more people. And so I've got a notebook now, and I'm noting down things as they happen and as they appear. But it's just so comforting and so reassuring, knowing that the soul lessons that we experience with our pets, they continue on even after they have passed. And because I can assure you, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, your animals they come into your life in this lifetime at this time because they're only here for a period of time that's never, ever, ever long enough in order to help your soul evolve, grow, and learn. However, when they cross over, there is so much more that they can do for you from, I guess, behind the scenes. But we have access to this veil between us and them. And you don't have to be a certified animal communicator in order to connect with them. You just need to set that intention and it will happen. And the most important message I can give you is to trust information, signs, symbols, synchronicities when they come to you, and trust the first thing that comes to you, because often our egoic mind starts to diss things and we start to almost detach from it and we say that can't be, or we use the word coincidence. But when you, I guess, level up into a new paradigm and you start operating from a new level of consciousness, you no longer believe in coincidences, because even the word coincidence means to coincide, to meet together. So I guess sharing this episode with you, it's my hope and intention to bring you, I guess, to update you with where I'm at in life. Another thing that I want to say is that Peanut actually was with me when the Friday before he passed away. Out of the blue, I had this idea to create an abundance challenge. No pun intended with the word abundance. And when I started creating it, it was Thursday, Friday. I was 2 days locked in my office, and he would nibble at my feet. He would nudge me for for treats and head rubs and manipulate me into giving him treats. And I had to obviously put the release of the course on hold because of his passing. And then it was, a few days later that his strength, although from the other side, felt more powerful and more strong, because it is through him that I was able to create this. And instead of launching it for a monetary value, I decided that I want to give this to people from the heart, because I know how powerful attuning ourselves to energy and abundance, what it can do for the soul. And so I encourage you to download the course. You get instant access. Just use the code abundance in order to receive it for free. I'll pop the link in the description below. I really hope you enjoy this. It's created from my heart and soul, and I really hope that it resonates with you. It transforms your lives in the way that it was intended, because this is something new that I'm creating, but I know it was inspired by Peanut, and now I dedicate this course to him, the 64-day abundance challenge. So as I just spoke then, my RoboVac said, I'm here. So this is just further proof. Thanks, Peanut. I know you're with me and you'll continue to send me signs. If you would love to learn how to receive signs from your animals, do let me know, because I've got plenty of tips that I can share in that department. But I guess it's so important to sit with our grief, to use it well, and at the same time to learn how to transmute because energy can't be created nor destroyed, it can only be transformed. And so it's really important that we use this in order to create something. And so I think this week has been a big teaching and learning moment for me, because I've been able to transmute my grief into creating things that I know can benefit and help people. So thank you so much for tuning in. I've got my bunny Neptune literally at my feet. Would you like to come up? Would you like to come up? He's too busy. He's lazy at the moment. It's their nap time. So thanks again for tuning in. If you feel that this episode would resonate with anyone, animal lovers in particular, then please share it with them. It would mean the world to me. And do reach out. I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you so much, as always. All my love, Natasha. Wherever you're listening from, if you can give us a review and a 5-star rating, that would be so helpful in supporting this podcast. If this episode lights you up and inspires you, then please make sure that you share this podcast and make sure that you tag me on Instagram. I am beyond grateful and so blessed to call this work. It just means so much. Together, we will learn and grow. Staying anchored in your heart means staying anchored to your humanity. All my love, Natasha.